Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I am doing a book review today on Red Queen. I'm very excited to do this review. I have just recently started doing book reviews on my channel. I'm usually doing like DIYs and hauls and things like that, but I really do love reading. I'm going to start to designate every Friday as a book review Friday, so very excited about that. I hope you guys are too. My very first book review was a historical romance, more geared towards an adult audience. This is more like teen/adult, so this is a totally different and opposite end of the spectrum. It's very fantasy, futuristic. So, but I hope that you guys enjoy that. I hope that you see that I'm going to do like a wide variety, although I'll never do things that are like murders or anything scary or anything like that, because that's just not the kind of books that I like to read. If you follow me on Instagram, then you know that this was coming. So if you want to know the books that I'm going to be reading ahead of time, and maybe if you want to read along with me, I do typically finish a book between 1 to 2 days, but I only do a book review like once a week. So if you do want to read along with me, then follow me on Instagram, because I will post the next book after this on what I'm going to be reading. I don't really know what book it's going to be just yet, but I will be posting it on Instagram this weekend. So I'm going to warn you ahead of time, this video may be lengthy because I have so much to say about this book that I can't even help myself. So if you guys are going to be into like staying in Friday night and getting cozy, then I am thinking this video is going to be for you. So let's go ahead and get started and talk about Red Queen. Oh my God. I don't even know where to start. Let me start off by telling you what kind of novel this is. I think this is very fantasy/futuristic. There are things in here that is like the world today in terms of there's humans, but there's also other things that just could never happen in real life. So that's why I think it's like futuristic/fantasy. Ultimately, what this book is about red blood versus silver blood. Now, red bloods are human beings like us, and they serve these silvers who are elite and who are pretty much like gods. That's how they're described in the book, and their blood is actually silver. So when they hurt or they bleed silver blood. And reds are very destitute, they're very poor, they live in the slums, they barely can even get electricity, they barely eat. It's just things like that. So reds, all of anybody that has red blood basically serves these silvers. Now the silvers have really cool powers. You know, they can do all kinds of things, and the actual words that the author, which is Victoria Aveyard, the actual words that she uses to describe their gifts are really interesting, just because it's kind of a twist to some of the other things we've already heard, but I'm going to just kind of read some of them off to you. There's powers that are like technology, powers that can grow like greenery, you know, then there's fire, water, mind, controlling metal, and being like super strength. So there's all of those powers, but the actual words that she uses to define them are really cool. Like, for example, the people who have the strength, they're called strong arms. And so that is one of the things that I really thought was very interesting about her book, are the actual words and descriptions that she uses for these silvers. Now, what the Red Queen is about a girl named Mare, and she has red blood, but as it turns out, she has red blood, but she has a power. So that's not like a secret, it's not a spoiler, it doesn't come at the end and shocks everybody. She pretty much finds out close to the beginning that she has powers, and she has a power that no one has, and her power is electricity. And what I love about her power is she is so incredibly different from everybody. She is the only one that actually has powers to create her power, whereas all the other silvers have these little silver, like not silver, all the silvers have these bracelets that they wear that creates their power, where like if somebody has the power of fire, it will create a spark and then they can shoot their fire out. Or if they have the power of water, you know, water and all that. She is the only one who actually generates and produces her power within her body. And one of the things that she finds out in here about her power, I'm going to kind of keep secret till the end of this book review because I am going to be doing some spoiler alerts at the end if you want to stay tuned if you have already read this book. But I highly recommend that if you haven't read this, do not continue past my spoiler alerts, and I will let you know when we get there. How they manage reds is that if you are not if you do not have a job, and if you've not been apprenticed to a certain type of job, the silvers are going to basically take you at the age of 18 and throw you into the war. So not only are they like poor and have barely nothing to eat, they take them and throw them into a war. Well, Mare does not have a job, and all her 3 oldest brothers have already had the same fate and have been casted off to war. So her sister, however, is very gifted in sewing, and she sews for the silvers. So she is basically going to save the family one day with her talent, and Mare knows that she is going to go into the war. The basic overview of what this book is about a girl named Mare, and she has red blood, and by some sort of twist of fate, she ends up in the palace, and so she avoids going into the war, and she discovers that she has a gift herself. But that's impossible, right? Because only silvers have the gift to have any sort of power like a god. So of course the king and the queen do not want their people to know about this, about how different she is and what that could possibly mean for them. So he basically hides her in the palace by betrothing her to one of his own sons, Maven, the youngest prince, and basically says she's silver, but she's not. But he does. He tells everybody that she's a silver. She was a lost silver. She's really not red. And so she has to hide the fact that she has red blood. And then she finds herself, in a love triangle with 2 princes who are brothers to top it all off, and then trying to basically push out what her heart is telling her about who she loves and who she should ultimately be with, and she tries to put that aside to basically fix her world and join the Scarlet Guard because she thinks that that's the right thing to do. And in the end, a set of betrayals happen, and this book is so incredibly well written and so action packed. And even though I leaned more towards a romance novel, I still think this was an excellent book. The Victoria Aveyard, the way that she writes this book, has nothing really to do so much about love, and that's the one thing I was very disappointed about. I'm not saying she didn't write her book well, because she wrote it beautifully, and every author writes differently. Now, in terms of me being the reader, I know the kinds of books that I love, and for me, it's all about that romance. I love that. I was obsessed with Twilight. Twilight was 90% about Bella and Edward. Bella, Edward, and then Jacob, right? And then everything else was just to throw in to make their love, triangle even more entertaining, which was dealing with other vampires and all of these things. But the ultimate book was about Bella and her love for Edward. And I loved that because the whole time, Stephanie Myers, the author of that book, writes about that love. And while there is a love triangle in this book between Mare and 2 princes, yes, the story is not about that love triangle whatsoever. And you only get a little bit here and there because ultimately this book is about Mare and how strong she is as a woman and the things that she wants to do to make the country right. For me, I was really disappointed in this first book. I have a leaf in my... I was really disappointed in the way that she wrote the love, in the way that she didn't write it, actually, because that she has fallen for one of the princes and one of the princes has fallen for her, but she doesn't write about it enough, and you only get like a prick of it, and you're like, oh my god. I was just left wanting so much more between the 2 of them, and I'm hoping in the second book that maybe she changes that. Mare finds herself trying to get herself out of going into war and basically runs smack into a rebellion that they call themselves the Scarlet Guard. And she wants to be able to just flee the country and not go into war, and realizes that there's this rebellion happening. managed by Reds, and they're going to try to overthrow the Silvers. Well, in the meantime, she has run into Cal, one of the princes, and she basically pours her heart out and tells him what is happening to her. She has no idea that he's the prince, so she thinks that she's just talking to somebody like her. And then the next day, the palace comes to her and takes her away from her family. And she's like, okay, well, it's my time to go, and I'm going. And she figures out that Cal has brought her to the palace because when the king comes out with his sons and his wife, the queen, she sees Cal and goes, oh my God, he's the prince. And so she pieces it all together and she's like, he saved me. He saved me from going into war. And so she was very excited about that thought. She's like, okay, I'm gonna live in the palace, I'm gonna serve these people, and all right, well, you know, this is my lot in life. First day, straight out the gate, there is an event that's happening, and you're gonna have to read the book to see what the event is, but that is when she discovers her gift and everyone else, including Silvers. So the king and queen take her and they're like, what are we gonna do with you? So they come up with a story that says, no, she looks like she's red, but she's really silver. And they don't want any of the Silvers to know she's different. They think that's fearful to them, so they keep it this secret. The king and queen know, the princes know what she really is. They know she's a red blood, but they also are like, but you have the gift of a silver, and that's not possible. We don't know who you are. So until we can figure out more about you, you are going to be betrothed to one of the princes. And she gets betrothed to Maven. I don't want to talk about Maven. And then Cal is betrothed to a Megatron. That is another one of the words that she uses for somebody that can control metal, which I thought was very cool. And so basically a couple weeks goes by and they're trying to train her to be a Silver. A Silver has like basically a bad attitude and you don't care about anything, you have zero feelings, and she's like, oh my God. And so she does the best that she can while she's also trying to learn about her energy, and that is when she realizes that she can create her energy. But in the meantime, she has a couple of moments with Cal, and I will tell you this right now. I want her to be with Cal. I'm throwing it out there into the universe, and if by my own red blood, if Mare does not end up with Cal, I will burn this book. Is that a little aggressive? And in the end, there is just a set of betrayals that you are going to have to read this book and see how this ends, because I am telling you, this is one of the best books I've ever read, and there's not even the love story that I'm looking for. If this had the love story I was looking for, I would probably read this book 3 or 4 times monthly. Like, I actually read the very last fight scene twice, and I never do that. Just because, like I said, I tend to gravitate towards romance instead of like action adventure, but I had to read the fight scene in the very end twice because it was so well written that I felt like I was literally there. And I don't know if you struggle like me, but sometimes in certain books it's hard for me to visualize what the author is trying to tell me. So I don't know why, but I had a very clear picture of this, so when this comes out in theaters, which I am gonna guess my pants that it will be, that when it comes out, I'm gonna be watching it, I'm gonna be like, oh my God, it's exactly how I read it. So I would highly recommend this book, and now I am just going to alert you all right now, we're getting into the spoiler alerts, so if you've read this book, then keep watching. If you haven't read this book, then I would strongly suggest not going past this, because let me tell you, this book is amazing. I don't think you'll be disappointed, especially if you love like Hunger Games and Twilight and all that stuff. Okay, let's get on with this book for those of you who have read it. And I just want to say that Victoria did an amazing job of painting the villain with the queen. I swear she does such a great job that I hate the queen so bad, and all my mind keeps doing is going, how's Victoria gonna kill her off? Because it better be good, because that woman is evil, and I cannot stand her. I don't know how she gets away with what she gets away with, but she has a power that like blows my ever-loving mind. They're called singers, I think is what it's called, and they can basically go into your mind and control you. They can talk to you into your mind. They can actually make your body move and do what they want to, which is how the first queen dies in the first place. And guess what? As you know, because you've read the book, that's how the king dies. And I was just sickened. I was sickened how Victoria wrote that. I wish that it was different, but I don't know if you know this, but according to what I read online, if you get the second book, which is called The Glass Sword, there's an alternate ending to this one. And I'm like, oh, yeah, maybe you changed Cal from killing his own father, because that was a bit much. So ultimately, if I could just tell you the things I didn't like, I did not like Cal killing his own father. I thought that was a bit much. However, that was a huge plot twist, and I was just like, oh no. So the queen gets away with it the whole time. The queen and Maven have been plotting against Mare and the Scarlet Guard this whole time. And so she is betrayed by Maven, and then she realizes, oh my God, I betrayed Cal. Because this whole time, Cal has saved me. He saved me from being in the war. He saved me from Megatron hurting herself and all of this stuff. And he is absolutely in love with her. I will say that of the little things that she does write about the love story, so she does write about Cal a lot and how he feels about Mare. Not necessarily how he feels, but his reactions towards her. And you just know that he's in love with her. And from the very beginning when she runs into him, I wanted her to be with Cal. And telling you right now, she better end up with Cal. Because if this has an ending like Divergent, I will lose my mind. I was so sickened by the ending of Divergent that I was just like, I will never read this again. I just don't like when books end that way. Like, I know that there's a lot of books and it's all very predictable and blah, 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 but I'm good with it being predictable like that all the time. Like, it's still a different story, and I just don't appreciate you killing off characters like that. So that's just how I am. That's just the kind of reader and audience that I am. We're not all the same audience, and that's okay. But like I said, if this book ends up anything like Divergent, I will be so disappointed. I mean, that's all I can say about it. I mean, can we just talk about the last chapter in the fight scene? I was just drooling over how Cal was trying to protect Mare. I was like, I was so, I felt like I was Mare. I felt like I could just produce electricity. I felt like I want to know a Cal in real life. And he has obviously the power to, spark fire. And then you've got Mare, who I knew, actually I didn't catch it. So I don't know if you caught it, but she basically runs out of the palace one day because she's upset about something, and runs outside because it's raining. And she gets caught up in the rain, and I think Maven comes to her out in the rain. And I think that's when she basically gets to leave for the night and go see her parents in secret. But I never caught on that she was actually the one who produced the rain. Did anyone catch on to that? Am I saying the right thing? Because in the end, in the last chapter, she's the one that summons the lightning storm and the rain and all that stuff. And I was just like, so when it rained that one time, because she said it, she was like, oh, it hasn't rained in a really long time. Well, yeah, that's because you just summoned it. And I will say that the other part that I did not like, and maybe this is where she changed the ending to the alternate ending in Glass Sword, but I thought Mare was just too special to have the silencer hold her power down, right? So that's what his name is. Like, his power is a silencer. He can stop you from producing your power. So Arvin, that's his name, Arvin the Silencer, and I was just like, no, even though that's his gift as a silver, no one should be able to tame Mare's gift. Like, I felt like she should have just shocked the whole world of silvers and been like, oh, you think you can hold my power down? Kind of like Bella, I guess, right? Because Bella has one of the most interesting gifts in Twilight, which she's a shield. And I sort of expected Mare to kind of have the same ability, if you will. She was special enough to only be the one to create it, and I felt she should have been special enough to disarm anybody from stopping her. So let's recap the things I don't like. Now I'm like growing a list. I don't like how there's not enough love between her and Cal. I don't like how Cal kills his father, and I don't like how Arvin silences her gift. I just was like, I don't know. So, but I do love the book. I mean, it kept me very intrigued, and if you've read it and you're watching this, regardless if you decide to go past the spoilers or not, this is an excellent read. I'm just blown away, and from what I think is like correct knowledge, this was like her debut novel. I was not that surprised that Shade was not dead. I was very happy that he was not dead. I was very happy that her two other brothers were alive as well, so I was very pleased with that. I'm not saying that you shouldn't kill off a character here and there, but I'm not gonna lie, I was very happy that she did not kill off her brothers, at least not in this book. We'll see what happens in the second book, but it turns out that Shade is also gifted like hers. She is red and silver, but stronger than both. So I am just so intrigued by that. Her brother has a teleporting ability, which was really cool. I had to read the ending twice because there for a minute in the end where she says arms grab her and take her down into the darkness, into the water, I think it's Cal, and I'm just like swooned by it. I'm like, Cal's always like, the whole time he's fighting, and he's fighting to protect himself, but he's fighting to protect Mare. So he's like, boo, boo, fire everywhere, but boo, boo, fire to help Mare, because Mare cannot use her gift, because Arvin is standing there making sure that she's not going to use her gift. So Maven allows Cal to have his fire, which is a totally bad mistake. And he did not expect for either of them to survive, let alone survive that long. And then Mare basically figures out a way to kill Arvin, thank God, and then gets her power. Although, like I said, I think she should have been able to create it anyway. And that was the only thing I didn't understand. If he can silence the power from coming out because there's a bracelet, well, she was different. So I need to get past this, but I still don't like that. So when I read it, I was just swooned that I thought Cal had grabbed her and they fell into this pit of, water in the sewage system down below, or whatever it is. That's at least how I read it. And then I went back and realized it was not Cal's arms that grabbed her. It was her brother Shade's. So they basically crawl in through these tunnels to come up into the arena, and they're blasting their guns from the hole, and they're blasting their guns at the sentinels, and then next thing she knows, arms grab her and they don't let go and they pull her down. And Shade is described to be her favorite brother. I am just beside myself about her and Cal. Like, all I want this book to be about is her and Cal. That's it. That's it. Do me a favor, Victoria, and write a book just about Mare and Cal, because I will eat it up. And that's the other thing, is they only have one kiss. Is it one kiss? It's like one kiss in this book, and I'm like, that's it. And then the kiss wasn't even described. Like, it didn't describe how Cal felt when he kissed her. And it didn't describe how Mare felt, other than she said she felt alive. But there wasn't anything else to it. She didn't describe the kiss. She didn't describe what his lips felt like. All of those things that I'm used to in a historical romance, or even in Twilight. And I was just like, you could have gave me a little bit more. So it definitely was like dangling the carrot in front of a horse. I just was like, Okay, so that is my book review. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'm sitting here going, did I say everything that I really wanted to say about it? But I do know that this is an excellent book, and if you've read it, I hope you feel the same way too. Now, I know that if I could have my own special power, I think I would want kind of a mixture of things. I know there's a couple of cool things, like a storm producer, sort of like Mare, right? She has lightning and she can summon the storm, so I think that's very cool. I would absolutely love that power because you could have a lot of like floods, you could have ice, you could have lightning, and you could also produce hurricanes and tornadoes and control the wind. So that is really cool. But I would also think that like sort of slowing down time, like freezing people or like slowing time but not yourself, that would be really awesome. Comment down below, let me know what power you would love to have, and thank you so much for watching my book review. I hope you guys loved it, and I'll see you next time. Bye.